Hello and welcome to the Nitro RX podcast. We are joined by a special guest today, Blake Wilkey, who is one of the drivers of the Baja Buggies. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Just getting the wheels turning on this fine Monday morning and excited to be here and see what kind of questions you got so I can just keep this show rolling on and make it exciting and let you guys dive into my world a little bit.
Absolutely, we'd love that. So we're going to kick off with, the standard question of what first got you interested in motorsport?
Just growing up in Southern California, my parents lived a very active, adrenaline-packed lifestyle with going to the desert, going to the river. So I was always surrounded by horsepower and grew up racing dirt bikes and at a very young age. And I guess that sense of freedom and man and machine just I was addicted to from a very young age, being around it. So um, going fast and taking risks and all that good stuff has been just I guess bred into me.
I want to
That's
say as well,
awesome.
from what we were talking about a little bit before we started recording, you seem to like racing a little bit of everything. So is that how you kind of got involved with Nitrocross? It was just more of an eventuality, inevitability thing there, or how did that all come about then?
I mean, it's just like every puzzle, you gotta, the pieces aligned to kind of complete the picture. And I think in my life, this is another piece of the puzzle that just kind of fell into place, And I know Greg Shapiro was in cahoots for the first Glen Helen race alongside with Baja Jerky, and they brought us to pretty much a local track, and we put on a heck of a show. And it seems like the snowball has built since then, and I believe that we are now going to be a part of the entire series. So being in the Baja Bug class, the class 11 specifically, I've been involved with that for the last 3 years, and I've built several Baja Bugs and in many different facets and different extremes. And since I've kind of been one of the top dogs for the last 3 years, when I got the invite, I was stoked. And I got the invite like a week before, and thank God the car was almost put back together.
I have to say that's very Nitro. It feels like there, and interested there. So 3 years you've been doing this, then why the Baja Bugs in particular? Then, because like you're saying, you got into dirt bikes early on. You were surrounded by horsepower growing up, so it kind of makes sense. But it's you look at the cars and you don't automatically think racing car. That's got to be said.
Yeah, when I was young, when I was first born, actually, my mom had a Baja Bug. So there was a picture of me and her on the refrigerator growing up, and we moved around a lot at an early age. And that picture got lost probably when I was about 10. But always remember seeing that picture and just kind of the coolness, the uniqueness of bugs and the game slug bug where you see one and you punch your buddy in the shoulder. Um, I just love the characteristics of them. I love the simplicity and the kind of vibe and the culture. Everyone around the bug seems to have some sort of story, and there's been so many of them that have been built and passed around and touched different people in many ways. So I just felt like when I got into off road, the Volkswagen platform was in a lot of buggies. I had a lot of friends with, or my mom's friends had a lot of VW inspired buggies that I grew up riding in, and it just seemed naturally fitting.
Was Herbie your favorite film growing up then?
It was definitely a very cool flick that I haven't watched in a while, but I might need to circle back to that because the Love Bug is, yeah, it's iconic.
Definitely. So I'm going to bring it back in a little bit. You won the first race and then had an absolutely epic second race story where you had to fix the car, flying out back on the track. But unfortunately, was it the accelerator that broke? And then Thiemo literally said this to me, but he's like, this is what embodies Nitro. Like, only this stuff can happen in Nitro. But do you want to talk us through that first round of the season and your point of view of all of that and like kind of how that felt having to worry about that when you obviously were going for the win?
Yeah, It's racing. Things happen. The first race, we came out swinging and wanted to. We started in the rear, just because we also want to put on a show. And I know that I got my car really dialed in. I'm very meticulous, and growing up riding dirt bikes, man and machine and setup is so crucial, because you're exposed to where if you crash, then you can get seriously injured, but you can feel a lot of fine-tune adjustments through dirt bikes. And I've set my car up really well. We wanted to put on a show, so we're like, we'll start in the back and make it interesting and have some fun instead of potentially running away with it. So me and Ryan Rodriguez, who is another very fast guy, kind of had a good battle going on, and ultimately we ended up bringing home the win on the first round. And then the second heat, second race, we started in the back, kind of had a couple guys that had to navigate through, and then me and Ryan again were battling, and he got a little sideways in a corner, and when I went to pass him, his front bumper made contact with my rear tire, ultimately giving me a flat. And he actually rolled it after he hit that, because it kind of gave him a little inertia in the direction the car didn't want to go. I went off the side of the track to try and clear him and stayed in the gas. If I hadn't, I probably would have T-boned him right in the side. So made a judgment call. And then when they were flipping him over, and we came to a stop because they red flagged it, I didn't realize I had a flat yet. And once we got back up into staging, I felt it. So I hauled butt to the pit. I knew where my spare was. I knew where the impact was, the jack was, and I just handled it. And my spotter, Scotty Dog, was on the radio. He's like, they're starting them. They're starting them, when I was getting back in the car and got my comms and everything hooked up. So when I got on the asphalt, I never lifted from the time I hit the asphalt until I hit the drop off. And that drop off was pretty iconic. I was definitely a little bit late to the party, but I wasn't giving up.
You definitely sent it.
Yeah, it was a cool feeling. I knew that was a steep, long downhill, and we went pretty far, and it was awesome.
We were describing it in our previous episodes a bit like one of those Hot Wheels tracks that you see, and you just absolutely just see this tiny kid just launching this car down there. It's like, it's exactly what that was there. It's like, that shouldn't work, but it has somehow.
Yeah, I mean, these VWs are not bulletproof, but they're very resilient, and it honestly didn't feel that bad with going with gravity on the downhill slope. I mean, I think we kissed the front bumper a little bit because we went so far, and it just dink. But 10 out of 10 would do it again. I know I got a little bit of Greg Shapiro got a little bit of a lashing for my actions, but all in all, before I came back up the ramp, and when we're stopped there for the red flag, when they were rolling Ryan Rodriguez back over, I had kind of scouted it and seen that no one was on the hill. There was no safety crew, and did my best to minimize risk.
And then what was it that went wrong afterwards? Was it the accelerators Nabila was saying there? Because we weren't 100% sure on commentary. We were just kind of devastated that, oh no, we were hoping for that comeback drive, and it stopped far too early.
Yeah, I mean, I made it, I think about half a lap, and I think because my right foot was so heavy, it shifted the pedal over onto the side of the roller behind the pedal. So I was down there, and I was using my right foot to hook the gas pedal and bring it back over, and then unbelted and twisted the pedal to make it to where it made better contact in the center of the roller. But I think it was I was just trying to push the gas pedal through the floorboard to keep that Sletton racing engine screaming at its full potential. And I think I was pushing a little bit too hard. So after I got that fixed, I got back out there and started dicing it up. But unfortunately, there was another rollover and a red flag, so they called it where we sat for the race. So we did, because obviously Nitro runs off a very strict time schedule. We kind of exceeded that time schedule, and they called the race. But when we got back into it, we're getting dicey with all those boys, you know, Cowboy Cerrone and everyone else in the field.
I do love Nabila as well, that him launching it off the kind of Hot Wheels their start finish, that's fine, but just keeping the foot in there too long, that's what finishes the car off.
Yeah.
I think that's hilarious. It doesn't seem logical, does it, for it to kind of be something that you did that's so dramatic? Like, how did the car hold up on that, but not just general being flawed for that long?
I mean, we do everything right. I mean, if we're gonna put our best foot forward, I make sure that my engine builder, Tim, he's very thorough. So he balances the full rotational assembly and everything to make sure that we have the best package we can physically put in these cars. So, I mean, even this last weekend, we raced against 30 other cars at the Moore Glen Helen race. And we had 4 different races this weekend. And it was, similar story, just pedal to the metal.
Sounds like carnage, 30 of them in one go. It's just, oh my days. I'd be getting so stressed watching that, never mind participating in it.
And we definitely have a target on our back. And there were some really good battles that went down. They did both a short course race and a GP race. So a 1 mile loop for the short course stuff, and then a 4 mile loop for the GP course at Glen Helen, where you guys obviously visit Glen Helen, and we race the short course race. The GP race utilizes a lot of the motocross track. So there's big jumps, big drop offs, the big start finish line. And it is probably my favorite race of the year because I grew up racing motocross there. And now to get to do it in the Bug, it's like, this is my shit. Let's go.
I love that. I love that. And it kind of brings me on to what I was going to ask you there, because Baja Bugs is so much fun. And outside of Oklahoma, you're saying that you've done this for a few years now. Is it mainly desert kind of off-road territory that you can race them on, or has it been a variety of terrain? Where else have you been racing them?
I mean, there's definitely a variety in the program and in the schedule. I haven't raced this car down in Mexico yet because there are some different rules with transmission gearing and all that other stuff that they do differently for the Score series. But we raced the Snore series, which is Southern Nevada series, the Moore series, which is the Mojave Desert, based out of California. That's been the program or the race series that we've been kind of running with more frequently. They race them at Crandon, which is a huge platform, King of the Hammers. And yeah, there's a lot of different bodies that embrace the Class 11 stock bug. And I think, you know, a lot of the off-road scene has been developed off of the platform of the Volkswagen, you know, and it's progressed. You know, I think Volkswagen, Jeep, and somewhat of a Ford influence. Those are the 3 manufacturers that have a platform which kind of piloted the off-road scene that have built off of, that have been built off of. But we've done it all. I mean, the desert stuff is super fun, and it's a whole different strategical, logical, like game planning and preparation with car setup and just the pace that you run. Because like the Mint 400, for example, right outside of Vegas is as we only do 300 miles because of the time span, but you're in the car for 9 hours straight, getting your ass kicked through like the most brutal terrain out there, because some of the race course is repeatedly ran. So you get these trophy trucks that have 40-inch tires that just chew up the terrain. And then when we're dealing with a 28-inch tire in very limited travel and suspension, it's a hoot. You're going for a ride for 9 hours. And when you get out of it, it feels like a 2x4 is screwed into your spine, where you're like walking around like Frankenstein for a couple days.
So you're calling it a hoot. I feel like when you're in the car and just getting out of it, you might be using other words to describe it.
Yeah, I need a chiropractor.
The trusty chiropractors. So you are obviously, well, you have told us some really cool stories, especially like what happened in the last Nitro round. But I'm wondering if you have a story in particular that was absolutely crazy. And then I'm also going to tie into this because I'm just curious. Do you have another day job or is it just racing?
Yeah, so every time you drive one of these bugs, if you're pushing it to the limit for a win, there are moments that you think you're gonna tip over, you're gonna buck, and I've scraped the front bumper so hard where I thought we were gonna do, you know, 3 front flips. I mean, every race when you're pushing the limits, and things pop up because the track can develop holes or G outs, and um, especially in like a loop race where you get kind of confident. And there's so many times where I've bicycled the car on 2 wheels and bucked or hit a hole and the car just launches and then lands and you hit the front bumper, rear bumper 3 or 4 times and it's like, holy shit, we're still on our wheels. Let's fucking go. But yeah, so I mean, there's so many moments in every race that are just adrenaline packed and exhilarating. And it what I tell people is it feels like you are a kid again, a 16-year-old kid again, and your grandpa or your dad tossed you the keys to one of their vehicles and you and your friends go smash a dirt road and you're like, I'm not supposed to be doing it, but I'm doing it. Let's hope we don't break it. So that feeling of having a limited car and pushing it to its limits and finding those limits and not ending up upside down is what keeps me coming back. It's so much fun.
I'm just really thinking we need
That's
to find a
awesome.
chiropractor to interview at this point.
Yeah.
I got a good one.
I'd hope so, to be honest, with all the stuff you keep putting yourself through.
Oh yeah, but
But I mean, you sell it so well that it sounds so worth it. You know, it's kind of that you get to go out there and just race in this kind of way that you feel like you're not allowed to do it, but then you can get out of the car and you're like, no, I am. This is my life. I'm allowed to do this, and it kind of justifies all that mucking about as such that you're doing as a kid and all that kind of thing. So it's yeah. Aside from the back pain, it sounds very appealing.
Yeah.
yep. And we've had 34 races so far in this car since it's been built, and we have finished 34 races with I believe like 28 first places and like 32 podium finishes.
I mean, I'm gonna
Damn.
take that shocked look on Nabila's face and copy paste it. I think.
That's awesome. Congrats. It's so rare to hear people that have finished pretty much every single race that they've ever competed. I'll be honest, it's unheard of. I don't think I've ever heard that. So that's impressive. I take my hat off to you for that.
We've definitely had those races where there's hurdles to overcome, with breaking a rocker arm, breaking a whole front corner of the car off, where in the desert races you have time to fix them and get to a pit. I mean, I've driven the car on 3 wheels for 20 miles through some gnarly terrain and just feeling so bad for the car doing it because it sounds like you're in a car crash every 10 seconds when it hits a rock or, something, and you're feeling the terrain kind of like because you have a stock VW pan, you feel rocks tumbling down the bottom of it, and it's just like, and, yeah, it hasn't been easy. There's been a few races that were a big struggle to finish, but I want to keep that record going, and it's definitely magical that we have been able to pull it off, and it's definitely unheard of, but uh, we're doing something right, and we're going to give it our best shot every time we start a race to make sure that car crosses the finish line, to show our partners that their parts can make it there.
I'll say if anyone's testing them to as close to destruction as they can get, it sounds like it's you. So and you're making it work. So
Doing my best.
we've got a series of fun kind of short form questions to finish off. Then first off, can you describe Nitro for us in 3 words?
Action packed. That's 2 words.
We'll have a
Intense.
hyphen in there. Don't worry, it'll be fine.
Yeah, action packed, intense, and fun. I mean,
Straight up fun.
yeah, you guys do. Nitro does such a good job with the pit setups and allowing people to come and get up close personal to the action. The tracks are always pristinely done to where it's a top tier professional track when you show up. That's like picture perfect. I mean, in Oklahoma at Mid America, that track was insane. Like, if you're an enthusiast, like seeing the layout in the valley and the setup was just, I mean, like a dream come true as a racer to get to show up and ride on such a prestigious track. Like,
Like that's your
it's
job
just,
for the day.
yeah, it's a blessing, man, to be a part of it for sure. And I'd love to race every car across the board, the side by sides, the electric cars, the rally cars. Like, I got to actually ride in one of the electric cars at Glen Helen, and it feels like a giant RC car. And it's just, I mean, I want experience, and I feel like I can drive anything and everything decent. But there's always tiers to it. There's stepping stones, and if I can figure out a way to keep progressing, then awesome. If I have to stick with the bug, still awesome.
I think that's really cool. And I think that nicely segues into a question that I always love to ask. I come from a rallying background, so I am always curious. Not sure if you've ever delved into it or not, but if you could pick any rally in the world and any rally car to drive it, what would it be?
Oh man, I mean, I've always wanted to do Pikes Peak just because of how iconic it is. Um, man, I mean, I would love to do Pikes Peak in a very like rad car, but I don't think that's really super rally-esque. But I'd love to just travel the world and race all of them, like, and do the full season. Like, that would be rad. I've talked about going to the rally school, and giving that a whirl with some of those guys, but my just been so crazy, and I feel like if that's something I dove into, then I'd have to commit to that for quite some time to really bring up my skills in that avenue, because that would be a new transition for me. It's very similar where you're high in the RPMs and you're sliding around. Having the front wheel drive as well would be a little bit of a learning curve, being able to trust the car to pull through something, whereas in off-road you kind of like always always feeling the back tires bite and steering with the front and having throttle control. But I feel like the rally stuff with the front wheel drive pulling, you don't have to correct quite as much. But these guys are on a whole nother level. And it'd be cool to level up with them one day. But timing is everything. So maybe our time will come one of these days.
That'd be pretty
Definitely.
awesome if it did.
Yeah.
So quick fire round then. Track racing v off road.
Say that one more time.
Track racing v off road.
They both are so much fun. I think for the fans, the track racing is amazing because they get to see a lot more of it. Whereas in the desert, they pass by and you don't see them for hours until they come around for another loop, or maybe you don't see them again because it's just a point to point race. The desert is very humbling because of the terrain and being in the middle of nowhere. So for me, I think the experience as a driver, I enjoy the desert stuff because it's man and machine, sometimes in the middle of absolutely nowhere where there's no support. And if you break, you're spending the night. The last Baja 500 race, um, I found some dead cactuses and had to light a fire to stay warm till our pit guys got there for 3 hours, and it's freezing and we have nothing but granola bars and fruit snacks. But it was beautiful. I took a nap on the coast of Pacific coast of Baja with a pile of cactuses where if I got cold, I woke up and threw another one on. And just even though we were broken and it was a bummer that our race was over, it was just peaceful being in that quiet setting with a fire and sleeping next to it with my teammate. And those experiences, I guess, have a much bigger reward at the end of it, but also can provide memories that are just,
Yeah,
far
you
and few
can't
in
get that with any
between.
other kind of racing.
Absolutely. And I think if I had to pick one, it would be desert because of the challenge, the scenery, and yeah, just the efforts that it takes to actually go do that.
NASCAR or F1?
F1 all
Europe,
day.
Europe or the US?
Um, Probably Europe. They, yeah, their settings, their tracks, I think the vibe and how deeply rooted that sport is over there is pretty legendary.
I'm gonna make your life a little bit tricky here because I'm gonna say Baja Buggies or Group E.
Baja Buggies.
Okay.
I mean, it's just because everyone or they're simple, but they're tricky. There's no power steering. It has, just the history behind them, of 70 years of being around, and just the nostalgia and the relatability. And the e-cars are awesome though. When I got to ride in one of those, it was awesome. But I'm just old school, I guess. I wouldn't mind racing an e-car, but I would definitely have my bug there if the bug class was going on, and I'd be doing both.
Nice. That is awesome. And then I just have some very simple ones. Burgers or hot dogs, since it was just 4th of
Bur-
July.
Burgers all day.
And then cake or ice cream.
Ice cream.
Nice. Perfect 4th of July,
There we go. Yeah, I love it. I got like probably 3 gallons of ice cream and frozen chocolate bananas in my fridge right now.
eh? Well,
I can't think of
I
a better
think,
place to end it, do you?
yeah. No, I can't either. And sadly, on that note, we are out of time, but it's been an absolute pleasure having you on and learning more
Nope.
about you and just kind of getting more into knowing a bit more about the mechanics of the buggies as well. So thank you so much for joining us.
Anytime if you guys need anything, or there's questions that come from this from the audience and stuff, if they want more and you guys want to do more and develop more questions, and yeah.